Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SSPI podcast by Space and Satellite Professionals International. I'm Tamara Bond-Williams, Executive Director of SSPI. This episode of the SSPI podcast is part of our Better Satellite World track of conversations exploring how our industry is making a difference in the world. The Accelerate Change series, sponsored by SES, explores how creative collaboration is transforming the pace of innovation across the space and satellite industry. In maritime, aviation, and offshore energy, connectivity is no longer a luxury. It's mission critical. Quvia is accelerating and transforming connectivity across mobile and remote environments with an AI-powered quality of experience, or QoE, platform that dynamically orchestrates network performance across satellite connectivity services on fleets, vessels, and airborne assets. In this episode, we explore how Quvia is helping cruise and ferry operators enhance the guest digital experience, including utilizing network APIs to distribute large content files amidst other large-sized digital media, and by partnering with satellite operators, allowing for more capacity control throughout larger fleets. This conversation highlights how software-driven intelligence, real-time analytics, and agile orchestration are transforming traditional legacy use cases into advanced, low-cost processes, utilizing existing bandwidth in maritime ecosystems and setting a new standard for digital services in motion. Our guest is Kidsan Barnes, Senior Vice President of Cruise and Ferry at Quvia, a company that's just announced its new name and is entering an exciting new chapter in its mission to transform digital services in motion. Kidsan is a standout leader in cruise connectivity and satellite communications. Under her leadership, Quvia is helping operators deliver better digital guest experiences, smarter bandwidth with use, and more responsive network orchestration, all powered by AI and real-time analytics. Kidsan, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Very excited to have you. I want to just jump right in right at the point of curiosity. So you have a new name, Quvia. Tell us about it.
So Quvia, as we continue to roll out throughout the market, we started to understand where our product is so much more than just a routing orchestration tool. And we wanted something that resonated with our brand uniquely. I don't know if you've ever tried to find a company name recently, but it is very challenging to find very unique company names. Mm-hmm. So we thought about what we do. We said, okay, what's the power behind it? And we said, okay, at the core, as you just said so nicely, at the core of everything that we do is quality of experience. So we said, okay, first thing is Q, quality of experience. And then we said we do this via, right? Latin for routing. So via multiple orbits, multiple connectivity paths. And we said, okay, can we piece this together? Because at the core of everything in our platform is quality of experience via these multiple satellite paths or multiple satellite orbits. So that's where we came up with Quvia.
I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for that. That is so cool. Okay,
and it is unique. It's different. We've rebranded only earlier this year, I think around a satellite show, and so far, I mean, a lot of our customers love it. It's stuck like glue right away. Some people say Quvia, some people say Q. Either way, Quvia.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say Quvia if that's okay, because you just explained that Q is literally Q. And so
yeah,
I love that. Okay, well, let's talk about that quality of experience, right? So on cruise ships or ferries, what do guests and crew expect today in terms of their digital experience? And what's at stake if that experience falls a little bit behind?
Yeah, understood. So guests expect a similar experience, as we all know, right, as to what we have at home on our fiber services. People are expecting nowadays that they can work from anywhere in the world, right? They can do their investment banking from anywhere in the world. They can play high resolution videos, and basically, whether they're on a ship or on an airplane. Folks are just expecting a similar performance wherever they are, despite however it may take to get that experience, right? As a passenger, you are not thinking, okay, well, the cruise line or the aviation company should or could do XYZ to give me a better experience. You're just on board saying, I need the best experience because I have things to do, right?
Mhm.
The truth is, people nowadays have multiple choices for when they're traveling, for when they're just on the road in general. And if a company offers some type of subpar service, it can be very detrimental to bottom line revenue, especially with the power of social media, right? So social media nowadays magnifies experience feedback, and this could be good or bad, right? So a
Mhm.
passenger can go on a airline or a cruise line and submit feedback on their overall experience. And depending on what that feedback is, it could go viral. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it just stays in their little circle. But at the end of the day, that aviation company or cruise line could potentially get impacted by this review about how services were, right? But internet is embedded in our day-to-day lives so much nowadays that it impacts everyone, and everyone has a voice about how their experience is. So it's important that we try to maintain a certain level for usability and quality.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I mean, we've all been there where you're promised that there's connectivity, and then the promise doesn't quite live up to the sale, and
Mhm.
then you're mad. It would have been
Mhm.
better to just say there's not there's nothing,
Right.
you can't, right,
Correct.
than to say there is something and it doesn't work.
Or to have the choice to, as I said, go to a different operator if you know, okay, one operator cannot deliver on a certain quality of experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, so you said, and I think you've kind of alluded to it, but you've said connectivity in these environments is no longer just a service, it's a mission. And so, can you talk a little bit about how Quvia is helping maritime and mobile operators fulfill that mission?
Yeah, definitely. So currently, clearly you'll hear me speak a lot about cruise and ferry connectivity, but currently Quvia is operating in several mobility environments, right? We're in the aviation space, we're in the energy space, commercial shipping space. Our main tagline is just in general, transforming connectivity and digital experiences for moving things. And we've developed our product to be a foundational platform for all these networks that are dynamically impacted or can be impacted, right, by multiple factors. Some of these factors are technical and some not so technical, right? For example, if you go on board a cruise ship, passenger demand may fluctuate throughout the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
When passengers come back from doing an excursion, everyone may be uploading to the cloud so they can sync their files. And also, if you have 2,000 passengers, for instance, send in WhatsApp text messages versus 2,000 passengers doing Zoom or video calls, clearly the demand on the network is completely different.
Yeah.
So understanding and dynamically managing this type of demand fluctuation in real time, and also understanding any technical metrics that may impact the user experience or the application behavior, that is really at the core of maintaining a good quality of experience so that it can be delivered to the user in a manner in which actually works, right? So there are several elements that can impact the quality of experience, but the platform itself has to understand and track each and every one individually, right? We're talking about packet loss, we're talking about round trip delay from the satellite, we're talking about jitter. So all these technical metrics, we have to have these tracked in our platform so that the system can understand how we need to work around or improve or optimize to deliver better quality.
Yeah. And so you're using so you're describing the analytics of what that experience is. You mentioned,
Yes.
the jitters and lag time and such. And so, and it's, you're using AI to manage the network performance in those environments. What's that really look like in practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love questions that ask me to simplify what is a very, very, very complex process, right? So in practice, our system integrates, it's a carrier grade deep packet inspector. It helps us to ensure the platform can identify all different types of traffic, right? That a user or a device might be sending over the internet. So
Mhm.
then we have our trained model that takes the necessary requirements that are needed for quality for these different traffic classes and basically ensures that we're optimized and delivering on that, right? So it means if you're using a collaboration tool for video calling, for instance, like Google Meets, you may think as a regular user that Google Meets and Zoom have the same requirements to deliver a certain quality, but actually that's not the truth, right?
Hmm.
They're developed differently, they operate differently, and your whatever platform you're using to manage traffic should really understand the specific type of requirements needed to optimize that specific application, right? It's not as simple as, oh, let's just configure this amount of bandwidth and everything should just work magically, right? It doesn't work like that. You really need to have more granular control of understanding the application types and the traffic. Now, clearly, a system that is on board can only pick from the available services on the vessel. So whether that's MEO services or LEO or GEO or LTE or any other connectivity option, we have to fully integrate with these options to ensure that the quality of experience is successful, right? If something goes wrong with delivering optimal performance, our system adjusts within like 50 milliseconds. And all of this clearly happens without you missing a beat on your Google Meets video, right? Um, yeah.
Wow. That I I just learned a new thing. I really would never have thought about uh, the different technical requirements. I mean, I know there are, but it's just not a thing that I think about when it comes to delivering the actual service and how the performance is going to be. That Google Meet is a very different kind of service than, say, for instance, Zoom. So that's kind of fascinating. So.
Yeah, at a high level, you can always categorize, okay, and we do that at high level in our portal. You can log in and say, okay, these are collaboration tools and how are they performing? What's the quality of experience for these collaboration tools? But when it comes to actually sending that specific type of traffic over the internet, knowing that this is a type of traffic being sent, it's actually a Google Meets video versus a Zoom video, and knowing how to treat that it definitely brings forth a bit more of optimization for the overall network as a whole. And that's just not in collaboration alone, right? The same thing applies for Instagram Reels versus Facebook video Reels, right? So it's
Mhm.
just really identifying the traffic, knowing what's needed to optimize that specific application, and then, of course, having the multiple options on board so that you can deliver the best quality of experience for that user's need.
Yeah. Okay, so you're figuring it out in the back end. You're figuring out how to differentiate between the kind of experience a user is engaging, and then what are the technical needs, and possibly what's the amount of bandwidth per. Is it that granular? Is it really per user, or is it
Yeah,
how,
yep, yep.
that
Yeah,
that's
we in our system we can identify even the flow of traffic. So every time you send a flow over the internet, whether that, again, whether you're sending an email or you're just trying to access a banking application, that specific flow that starts, we actually have visibility into that flow so we can determine this is how that flow should be treated.
mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, well, I'm kind of astounded. I don't think that it would have ever occurred to me that it would be that granular,
Granular. Yep.
especially in these mobile environments, right? Where it's very complex and it's on the go, and to get down to the level of the individual user to understand what, like you say, flow is quite astounding. And so uh, Is that all automated, or is there an end user somewhere in the back end kind of saying, pushing a button? How does that all
No.
work in real time?
Yeah, no, great question. So I think when when we built Quvia's platform,
Mm-hmm.
uh, one of the core problems we were trying to solve is so clearly visibility and control.
Mm-hmm.
We knew right away that we wanted our customers to have an absolute granular level of visibility so that when they do need a troubleshoot, the user may come and say, "Oh, my internet works fine, but I have this one app that doesn't work," or "My internet works fine, but XYZ pages aren't working for me." So
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to get as granular as possible to identify these specific situations. But not just that, we also realized that of course, in legacy SD-WAN situations, that granularity doesn't exist. So it's very complicated to make sure that the services are optimized based on the traffic being sent and what the users are doing. So we took the other approach, which is training the models and making sure that our platform has the intelligence it needs to really understand at base level, this is what users are doing on the internet in many
Mm-hmm.
different ways. These are the types of traffic classes. These are the types of tools. Clearly, that requires some effort, sometimes with updating signatures, because signatures on the internet can change. And there is new traffic classes. Sometimes we even have to add, right? So those
Mm-hmm.
things can be done, but clearly we have a library, right, that already exists of anything potentially that could transmit over the internet. And again, we can go in and make changes, make updates as needed, but the system is automatic, right? It knows, okay, this is the type of traffic, this is what's being sent, this is how this type of traffic has to be optimized, and baseline. There is always a baseline for everything that is sent through or grid, so we know how it should perform. So any deviation to that, we know something's wrong, right? And at that point, sure, you can call for manual intervention, or somebody on a network engineer side can review and say, the quality experience on collaboration apps right now is running at a 75%. Why is it not higher? Then you
Mm-hmm.
can, double tap and say, okay, well, it looks like there's an issue either on the firewall or maybe somewhere else, right? So that's the type of visibility we aim to provide.
You are listening to The Better Satellite World, the longest running continuous podcast in the commercial space and satellite industry. The Better Satellite World podcast is funded by the corporate partners of SSPI, Hughes, Access Intelligence, the American Space Exploration Fund, and Quvia. Have you heard about SBQ? Space Business Qualified is a popular online learning program for industry professionals designed by GSOA, SSPI, and SatProf. To learn more, visit spacebq.org. In September and November, join SSPI and the New York Space Alliance for the next New York Space Business Roundtable. If you want to get inside the industry's biggest issues and investments, meet startups and high-profile industry leaders from around the world. The Roundtable is a real New York event you cannot miss. You can now register for our next New York Space Business Roundtable, which will be on September 30th. Call or raise Europe Bets on Sovereign Space. To register for this upcoming roundtable, visit sspi.org/events. And now back to the Better Satellite World.
Satellite capacity, we know it's not an unlimited resource. So when you're collaborating with companies like our sponsor SES, for instance, how are you helping them to optimize their available capacity and to shift or scale capacity across an entire fleet?
Yeah, no, great question. So we actually recently published a case study about our network capacity controller. And as the name explains, network capacity controller does just that, right? It helps satellite operators and fleet owners to dynamically utilize available capacity on the network in real time. So if passengers are syncing photos to Apple Cloud or Google Photos, let's say it's on 3 or 45 ships in the fleet, then we can dynamically now say, okay, these 3 ships need additional upstream bandwidth. Let's go ahead and allocate extra bandwidth to these ships without anybody having to look at it on the back end, without anybody having to manually configure. So we are focused on the future of fleet management and dynamic bandwidth kind of configuration across fleets with bandwidth pools that are just readily available. So the goal is, okay, all these larger cruise lines or even the smaller ones, right? They can come to SES and basically say, hey, I just want a pool of bandwidth. And you guys being SES in partnership with Quvia, you have the type of technology to where that can manage itself, right? There's no more need to basically go in and consistently configure or change based on different itinerary. We're doing away with a lot of the legacy way that we've become used to of having to manually update based on what's happening on the ship, right? We're going to the more dynamically configured environments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm listening to this and I'm chuckling because it occurs to me, from what you just said, it occurs to me that must make it so much easier to sell satellite capacity. Um, just to know that it can be dynamically allocated in real time, as opposed to the end user having to figure out, I need this capacity for this and this. Like, they don't have to figure that out. They can buy a block and
100%. Yep.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. We're unlocking the door to so much more innovation in the industry because we're looking now at, let's say, from edge to cloud sync, right? We realize that there's a gap in synchronization there because on board you may have several processes that are being followed, but they're unable to be uploaded to the cloud because limitations on how much capacity is available, right? How much bandwidth is available. So we're thinking, okay, let's focus on enabling smarter infrastructure at the edge. So without a scalable way to sync the data back to the cloud, the insights are delayed, right? The customers can't integrate real-time updates into any operational model they have. So it's just overall inefficiency, and there's a gap there. So we're now saying, okay, how do we take our tools with network capacity controller, Quvia grid that already understands how to manage and optimize these networks on board? How do we sync all of that up to ensure that the amount of bandwidth that is available from a SES can be used for keeping the cloud environments updated in operational environments, and this other advanced trajectory that satellite capacity hasn't yet been able to fulfill in real time.
Yeah. So when you talk about the data, I'm just trying to think about what that looks like. Like I guess I'm envisioning really simple and basic things. Like, we're on a cruise. We have a series of cruises that are going that are happening, and sales are also happening, right? And so the banking transactions have to get communicated back, right? Is that the kind of thing that we're talking about?
Yeah, there's lots of things. Let's look at it from a revenue perspective too. So let's say you want to cruise, and there's a bunch of onboard photography going on, right? Everybody's taking your pictures. I'm not sure how many cruises you've been on, Tamara, but
I avoid them like the plague.
Oh, really? No, don't say that. Don't say that. Okay. Well, let me explain. So there's onboard photography, and everyone wants their memories. Yes, we have these wonderful cell phones, but sometimes photographers are capturing the moment so much better. The quality of the pictures is so much better. Photos are edited and then sold to passengers, right? So the possibility of syncing all the photos that you take on board and having that sync to the cloud to be available to passengers after the cruise has always been a challenge. for
Wow.
instance, right?
Okay.
So take just that simple example of now being able to take the photos, get them uploaded to the cloud. Maybe somebody on shore side can do the edits. Now they're just always available in the cloud. The passenger can go on and buy it, whether they buy it today or next year, it's already in the cloud, right? You no longer have to worry about that being an issue, right? Having the available bandwidth for that type of sync. But that's one example, but surely there's tons of examples with regards to marine electronics, how the ship has to operate, stuff going on in the engine rooms that, and even not in cruise, right? In the energy space, they're talking about the data that they're pulling from, when they're finding oil and digging these rigs. Like there's tons of data out there in multiple verticals that needs to be synced to the cloud. And yes, it's a current existing but slow process, but we're saying how can we integrate, use the necessary APIs and ensure that this process is a bit more seamless and a bit more flawless for everyone.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. What I was being honest, right? I never want to be locked into a place where I'm stuck out at sea somewhere and can't communicate. So the fact that the technology is improving so much and that you're on such a cutting edge of that, it gives me a little bit more confidence to be able to go on a cruise maybe one day in the future.
I have found my new reason for working in connectivity now. It's because I need you to believe in us so you can go cruising, okay? I knew there was a reason I was here all along.
Well, there you go. So I'm going to be watching it with bated breath. Like, okay, what's next new thing that Quvia is going to do
exactly,
so that I can go on a cruise?
Too funny.
Okay. Well, so you've expanded your platform through partnerships with operators, resellers, integrators, and solutions providers. So how does this kind of ecosystem collaboration help accelerate change for your customers and crews? I mean, I think we've touched on some things, but what are some of the improvements that you've seen for the customer?
So you're opening the door for some bragging rights now, right? So let me just take advantage.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, our marketing team does such a great job too. So we recently announced that Quvia is trusted by 3 of the world's top 4 largest cruise lines.
Wow.
And in addition to over a dozen other brands within the cruise industry. So considering that we've been focused on bringing our product to market only over the last 2 to 3 years, it's tremendous direct sale market growth, right?
Wow.
Now, last year, we did make a conscious effort that we need to focus on our partnership strategy. We basically said there are a few strategic players in the satellite connectivity space that we could integrate with and collaborate with and bring forth additional innovation with a product, right? We've already proven the product exists. The product does what it needs to do. Who are the players that we now need to continue to collaborate with so that our roadmap for the next 2 to 3 years brings forth, of course, the added value that we need, right? Over the next year, we'll be on over 60% of all ocean-going cruise ships. So
Wow.
It's tremendous growth that already exists, but our focus is really building out this as a platform, right? So we talked about the edge to cloud sync. There's plans on VOD and IPTV and a bunch of other products that we can now build because, as you just said, we have this granular approach where we literally understand everything happening on the vessel, from what the users are doing or what the devices are doing to how they need to actually perform and what the quality of experience actually should look like, right? So since we already have that granular foundation and training models already completed, what other modules can we now add on top of that to collaborate with players that have unique value propositions in the connectivity space, right? So we have announced partnerships with SES, as you've mentioned before, and we have also announced a partnership with Telenor, or Telenor partnership will focus more on the ferry space over in Europe specifically, because there is a lot of potential there, and we do see where our product would bring tremendous value for ferry in Europe. But SES, of course, is our largest partner that we are currently collaborating with, and definitely looking forward to all that we'll do over the next few years.
Yeah. Are you're working with fleets, and cruise fleets specifically? Are you doing also any kind of military fleets around the world?
Right now we are not, but
Okay.
it is in our plans.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's not a hard no, but right now we're not currently engaged.
Well, with 60% market penetration, I think you're doing fantastic, actually. So that's not a
That's a cruise number. Now, again, we're in aviation, commercial shipping, energy, right? And I won't quote their numbers, but yes, they are definitely coming up in the ranks as well. So I think as a whole, the company is doing really well with our penetration targets.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, okay, so I'm going to ask the question. It's always a question that I have to ask because I'm really fascinated with the rapid adoption of artificial intelligence, and you were describing earlier the process of developing the intelligence systems that power your platform and that make what you do possible, right? And so you're building out these systems that are deeply complex. They're managing so much information, and they're managing people in these places, right? So I mean, I'm going back to my own self and the vulnerability that I personally feel about being on the open sea for extended periods of time, right? And so we're talking about managing the effectiveness of our communication systems where people are involved. So how do we true the AI? How do we know that the AI is successfully managing the well-being of your clients?
Right. So self to Kidsan, please answer this properly so that Tamara will trust us for a cruise. Okay. No, great question. And it's one that should come up more often, but doesn't come up as often, funny enough. I
Wow.
think, well, yeah, when you talk about owning or monitoring a system that uses I think we have to remember, though, that there are multiple stakeholders that are impacted by the data or the actions that the AI takes, right? So in my personal opinion, it's not so much as who trues it up or who monitors it. It's more about what that AI platform or tool is doing, right? At the core of what we're doing, clearly we're focused on consistent network performance, improved network performance, et cetera. And in order for us to do that, there are several players that are interacting as well, right? The satellite operators are there, firewall companies are there, internet portal companies, because many things can go wrong, right? Many things can go wrong for you to have a horrible experience.
Yeah.
So there are multiple players involved. And from the data that we are pulling and sharing, analyzing and sharing, or customers are making multi-million-dollar decisions as well based on this data. So there's a mix of responsibilities and roles that are required to review the data that's being ingested, review the data that's coming out of it, making sure technical and the business data is actually accurate. And in the case that there are these high stake life possibly threatening situations where, okay, we do need access to the internet for a medical issue or something else is going on, AI can never replace human accountability, right? It's
Yeah.
for augmenting. So I don't believe you'll see many situations really now, especially now, we're not there yet, where AI is taking over the entire chain. You're always going to have some form of human accountability, and it'll be always a shared responsibility model, where, multiple folks are engaging with the data and the decisions that the platform or the tool makes, right?
Yeah.
I think for us in general in our industry, working in space and satellite, it's not an easy feat, right? It's very complex, and every angle that you turn, you need to make sure you have the right partners or the right folks that are working with you to deliver what you're trying to deliver, right?
Yeah.
So all of this comes together to say you should still take that cruise. And we promise everyone in the ecosystem will do their part to make sure that you have a great experience. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So my next move is going to be, Kidsan. My next move is going to say, please send me the list of cruises that you approve for me to take. So
Ooh, that's a hard one. Did you not hear how many customers I have? Just sent you the whole industry.
Well, listen, I heard you say 3 out of 4, so I need the 3 and not the 4th.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah. Well, I know I sound ridiculous, but I am genuinely am genuinely anxious about cruises, and it's very irrational, and so I am always deeply excited to learn about the inner workings of how they're managed, because it's a very fascinating thing to do something that complex with so many people involved. So
yeah, things are changing drastically on board. Content that wasn't available before, we're facilitating that on board. IPTV streams now with the ability to really know when bandwidth is available versus when it's not available. It just allows for a better digital experience overall for passengers. Whereas before, as you probably are thinking, you're probably thinking, I get on a cruise and I'm not going to have any type of service. Like, it's not true anymore, because there's multiple ways that we can ensure that you don't miss a beat, right? You still have everything that you would have at home from a connectivity perspective, from an entertainment perspective. It's just that now you have a little bit extra because you have a whole vacation experience at the sea. So.
Okay. All right. You've almost sold me.
Well, at bare minimum, I think maybe on your next European adventure, you could try a ferry. Maybe take a little ferry adventure and
Well,
see
you
how
know
that
what?
goes.
See here, you're speaking my language. I actually love ferries. Love
Okay.
ferries. Um,
Overnight ferries or just 2-hour ferry ride? Which one are we talking about?
I have not yet had the experience of being on an overnight ferry, but I think I wouldn't mind that either. I tell you, real talk. I was working in New York City, and in the affected area when 9/11 happened. We're heading into September, so it's a poignant memory. And I was living in New Jersey. And so after 9/11, the PATH train, which is the subway that connects New Jersey to New York, was shut down because it was destroyed. And so the only way to get to work was to take the ferry. And those were some of my best times. I loved that commute. That was my favorite commute, like ever, was to take that ferry back and forth home. And so, and I am famously terrified of thunderstorms, which is nuts, but I am not on a ferry. Not even a little bit. Just weird.
Interesting. You're a special person, Tam.
Slightly unique. Well, Kidsan, thank you so much for being here on the podcast. I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you, and I've learned a lot. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. And as always, we're looking forward to continuing to partner with SSPI and everyone else in the industry. SES, as I said, continuing to work with them on innovation and what the future holds, and expanding our reach within cruise and ferry and all the other verticals.
Fantastic. And with that, we conclude today's episode, Digital Services in Motion, Software-Defined Connectivity at Sea and Beyond. We thank our guest, Kidsan Barnes of Quvia, for sharing her vision and experience with us. This podcast is made possible by the support of SSPI's professional, student, and corporate members. We are especially grateful for our corporate partners, Access Intelligence, producers of Via Satellite Magazine, the American Space Exploration Fund, formerly known as the Space Shuttle Children's Trust Fund, the law firm of Clyde and Company, Hughes and EchoStar Company, and today's guest, Quvia. To learn more about SSPI, visit sspi.org and follow us on X at SSPI, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. New episodes of the SSPI podcast, including the Better Satellite World podcast, the Satellite Futures podcast, and She Reaches, Women in Space, are released every Monday. Subscribe at sspi.org/SSPI-podcast. You can find us also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and even YouTube, really wherever you get your podcasts. For SSPI and our producer, Ari Yates, I am Tamara Bond-Williams. And for the people and companies building a space and satellite future worthy of our highest aspirations, thank you for all you do.